It was almost 11 o'clock in the morning, and I was in bed. I had the Spanish flu. It was very, very bad about. The week before, I'd watched a house opposite, 4 coffins coming out and being taken away. The mother, the father, and the 2 children. Oh, lots and lots of people, all the way up and down the road. There were funerals all the time. At that time, it seemed as if it was nothing but drawing the blind because someone had died and was being buried that day. But on the particular day, November the 11th, 1918, I was in bed. I was very poorly, and the mum was expecting the doctor. I'd been in bed for 3 or 4 days, more than that I think. The doctor had been twice, and just as he was coming up the stairs, the maroon sounded. That was that came from the fire station that they used to sound if there was a raid or anything. The maroons, they called it, like guns firing. As the doctor came up the stairs, it was just going, and he turned to my mother and he said, "Oh, the sweetest music I ever heard." So my mother said, "Oh, it's wonderful, isn't it?" And he came in and examined me, and I was very poorly actually. Of course, everybody immediately began coming home from work, and that my brother Ted came. I can remember him coming in, and he'd got a big firework that he'd bought, and it had got a wood handle, and it was like a long pole, and he'd paid 6pence for it, which was quite an amount for Ted. And he said, I'm going to let it off tonight, you'll be able to see it." And my father, who of course worked nights, he got up, you see. My father got up early, and he went down into the shopping area, and he bought a huge flag, red, white and blue flag, and it was really one to hang out of the window. But he decided, as I was in bed, he wouldn't hang it out in the window, he'd hang it up in the bedroom. So we had this red, white and blue flag hanging almost halfway across the bedroom for me. Of course, they began, people walking up and down the road singing, and crowds of people all coming up and down playing little bands, and oh, it was such a joyful day. That was the day that the war ended. But I was too poorly really to appreciate it all. And I remember when it was dusk in the evening, Ted went up the garden with this firework, and Mum tried to help me up in bed so that I could see through all but my back, and that did ache. I was really poorly. And I looked out, and he'd lit it, and it came bright red. And then he waved it like this, going bright red, and then it changed to white, and then it was blue, and it kept changing from red, white and blue. It was a beautiful firework really, and it was one to hold in your hand, you see. And I remember him rushing upstairs. "Did you see it, Win? Did you see it? Did you like it?" I said, "Oh, it was wonderful. It really was wonderful, but oh, I was really too ill to appreciate it."
Were there any other celebrations later on?
Yes, the children had a party, the school children, but not until the next July. It was July, the Peace Days were, and we had a party in the park. I can remember we all made paper hats. The little ones had red, and then the middle school had white, and we had to make blue hats, you see, out of crinkly paper. And we had to march from the school to the park, all with these red, white and blue hats on, the little ones and the middle school and that. And everybody said it was magnificent. Everybody thought it was a wonderful sight to see all the school coming down the road with just red, white and blue. I think we did the races first, and I won a prize in the skipping rope race, and I had a blue necklace, and I was so thrilled and pleased with it. I kept it in the box, and I very seldom wore it. And I used to get it out and look at it. It was too beautiful to wear. This beautiful blue Oh, necklace that I won. Oh dear. But the tea party, everybody had a bag, and in the bag there was a currant bun and a sandwich and a plain cake. There was a plain cake. It was a wonderful day, really, having this. And prior to us going to the park, they gave us all a medal that had got, it was a medal with red, white and blue ribbon, and it was commemorating the war. I've still got mine, and we all had to wear them on that day. And when the first Armistice Service was, the memorial service, was on the 11th of November 1919, and of course they were all at work then. Ted was at work and Nellie was at work and Percy, and my mother said to me at breakfast, we'd got a holiday from school, and she said, come on, get up, hurry up with your breakfast because I'm going to take you into town. So I said, this morning? And she said, yes, we're going into town because this is a very, very special day, and I'm sure it's one that you will remember all the days of your life. She said, we're going into town to the memorial service for the soldiers that were killed. And we went into town, we walked up Hill Street to Victoria Square. We were there at 10:30, quite early. We were right opposite the council house, and they erected this platform in the middle of Victoria Square for people like the Bishop of Birmingham and the Lord Mayor and all the councillors and everything. And there were soldiers there, and as we stood there, the people gradually gathered and gathered and gathered and gathered until all the way down Coleman Row and all the way back to Broad Street, down Hill Street, all round the council house and Chamberlain Square, the town hall. Everywhere was just massed with people. Men and women and children were all there, and of course they closed all the factories and they stopped every bit of traffic, and all the machinery in every works was stopped as well, so that it was absolutely dead silence. They began to play the Last Post. There was a swish as every man's hat came on. I noticed it particularly. All the way I looked, there was this sort of the movement of the arm up and the hat off. And it was quite well, you can imagine it to be quite a swish, because everybody wore hats in those days. Little boys and caps, and older men with their trilbies and bowlers and all kinds of things that they wore. And then we had the service. It was very similar, the service, to the same that they have today. It was more or less the same, really. But I can remember standing there on that curb and them singing Abide With Me. And I was thinking of Curly. He was the one I was thinking about. And the tears rolled down my cheek. I was only 12, but I can remember it now, how I felt as if I'd got plums in my mouth. And this tear came down my... thinking of Curly, really. The soldier that we'd made friends with, the American. But... of course afterwards everybody dispersed and we went home, but I shall always remember that service. It was the very first Remembrance Day. I had 2 minutes silence at the actual time that the war ended.